Have you ever leaned close enough to hear the voice of stone? Today, we begin with that sound, the sharp kiss of chisel on sandstone, and a question: who keeps that voice alive?
And I'm Rachana Solve. In today's episode, we're exploring the living tradition of Khmer stone carving, the people, the practice, and the meanings carved into temples and homes alike. We'll walk through quarries, workshops, and temple precincts in sound and story.
By the end of this hour, you'll understand not only how these sculptures are made, but what they mean to families, communities, and Cambodia's cultural memory. We'll also point you to visuals and resources so you can see what we describe. Ready? Let's begin where the craft begins: history and context.
Consider this. Stone sculpture in the Khmer world is not just decoration. From the great faces at Angkor to the small lintels above village doorways, carved stone encoded royal power, devotional practice, and shared stories. To understand technique, we must first understand this long visual vocabulary.
The tradition stretches back over 1,000 years. The Khmer Empire's golden age, roughly the 9th to the 13th centuries, produced the temples we most often picture: Angkor Wat, Bayon, Top Rome. Carving styles evolved across those centuries: refined bas-relief narratives, sculpted deities, and ornamental motifs like naga, serpents, apsaras, celestial dancers, and the endless floral scroll. These motifs are part language, part memory. They tell stories about kingship, cosmology, and community values.
The materials mattered as much as the images. Sandstone from local quarries became the primary medium for monuments because of its workability and longevity. Later, when budgets or purposes shifted, other stones and even stucco appeared. But the logic remained: durable material for durable meaning. The deeper story here is how communities and rulers invested labor and symbolism into stone, making public memory visible for generations.
Section 2. Let's move closer to tools, stone, and the sequence of making. Picture a quarry in the morning light. Men and women split blocks with wedge and hammer. Listen for the right grain, and imagine the block as a figure waiting to emerge. What follows is both craft and conversation between hand and material.
The basic toolkit is simple but precise. Point chisels, flat chisels, tooth chisels, wooden mallets, measuring rods, and sometimes modern angle grinders for rough shaping. The point chisel opens form. The tooth chisel refines plane and volume. The flat chisel lifts a surface to its final smoothness. Each tool produces a different voice in the stone. Think of them as an ensemble rather than solo acts.
Carving follows stages. First, quarrying and block selection. Second, layout, drawing proportions directly on the stone or on a clay model. Third, roughing out the major volumes, called blocking. Fourth, progressive refinement, facial features, ornament, and finishing textures. Finally, surface treatments or protective coatings when appropriate. In some workshops, painting or inlay completes a piece, although many of the surviving temple carvings are unpainted sandstone today.
Listen to the rhythm of a workshop. Mallet, strike. Step back, inspect, and adjust. That pause between strikes is where judgment lives. Older carvers speak of seeing the figure inside the block, not mystical, but the result of long experience and an embodied vocabulary of proportion and gesture. The apprentices learn this by watching, imitating, and eventually correcting the master's hand.
One of the challenges of audio is helping you visualize technical detail. If you're listening on the app, check the show notes for Samnang's YouTube gallery, where each tool and stage is photographed and captioned. Still, imagine a young apprentice, hands calloused, eyes narrowed, learning to place a chin or the curve of an eyebrow so that the whole figure breathes correctly in relation to the body. That skill transmitted across meals and workdays, not just in a classroom.
Section 3. the lives of carvers, ritual meanings, and the ethics of conservation. Carving families often pass skills down through generations. In some villages, an entire household participates in different stages of production: quarrying, carving, transport, finishing, and sale. Apprenticeship is an embodied curriculum. Stories, proverbs, gestures, and correctives shape both craft and character.
But these are professionals with livelihoods. Modern pressures, tourism demand, market aesthetics, and export orders change work patterns. These artisans negotiate contracts, deadlines, and materials budgets just like any craftspeople anywhere.
We also must talk about meaning. Motifs like the Naga or Apsara carry layers of significance: cosmological symbolism, local origin stories, and aesthetic conventions. In temple contexts, sculptures can be part of ritual life. In village contexts, they can mark lineage or protect a community space. What this reveals is how art and belief intertwine. Sculpture both shapes and reflects communal values.
Conservation brings hard questions. When a heritage site decays, who decides what to restore, what to replace, and who benefits? Too often, external institutions set priorities without enough local input. But there are encouraging movements, community-led conservation projects that prioritize local knowledge, pay artisans fairly, and document traditional techniques so they remain living practices rather than museum relics.
Ethical conservation means centering the carvers' voices. It means transparent agreements about who owns replicas or restoration work. And importantly, it means teaching the younger generation both traditional methods and sustainable business skills, so carving can be a viable, modern livelihood. The research tells us that continuity depends on respect for craft, community protocols, and economic fairness.
So what can listeners do? First, learn. Check our show notes for books, museum resources, and Samnang's YouTube visuals that illustrate carving stages. Second, when you purchase carvings or support workshops, ask about provenance, fair pay, and whether the seller collaborates with community projects. Third, share responsibly. Photos and stories are wonderful, but avoid exposing restricted ritual practices or sacred sites without permission.
Before we close, a quick recap. We listened for the sound of chisel on stone and learned how that sound holds centuries of craft and meaning. We mapped tools and stages, heard how apprenticeship transmits embodied knowledge, and discussed the ethical choices that shape conservation and livelihoods today. The layers matter: material, method, meaning, and the people who keep it all alive.
Resources. You'll find links in the episode notes to Samnang's curated YouTube gallery, recommended readings on Khmer sculpture, museum collections with respectful online exhibits, and NGOs pioneering community-led conservation. We encourage you to explore images and videos while you listen to help bridge the audio-visual gap.
And now, a small invitation. If you visited a workshop, seen a quarry, or own a piece of Khmer stonework with a known provenance, share a respectful photo and a short story with us on social media. Tag Ancient Echoes and Samnang's channel so we can amplify artisan voices rather than exoticize them.
That brings us to our call to action. If this episode resonated, follow Ancient Echoes on your favorite podcast app, subscribe to Samnang's YouTube channel for visual walkthroughs, and share this episode with someone who cares about craft, heritage, or Cambodia. You can also connect with us and share your stories at Ancient Echoes Podcast or visit ancientechoes.example.com. Let's unlock the echoes of history together.
Gentle outro music fades in softly. That brings us to the end of this episode of Ancient Echoes. We hope these stories helped you see Cambodian history and culture in a deeper, more human way.
The echoes of the past live on in people's voices, memories, and everyday lives. Thank you for listening and for making space for these stories. If this episode resonated with you, please follow Ancient Echoes on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who might appreciate these conversations. You can also connect with us and share your own stories or questions at @Ancient Echoes Podcast. Until next time, let's unlock the echoes of history together.
Music swells briefly, then fades out.
In the quiet of night, I whispered my plea, holding her close, hoping for her decree. I called upon spirits, asked them to guide, to take her heart and lead her by my side. So I drew her near, traced her brow so fair on my sight this way. Sacred power, swai, mighty spirit awakened. By the master's right, let her heart be gently taken. Let her follow me now by vow and by sign. I hear these words, oh teacher, witness this plea. Oh, my sacred power, swai. Oh, oh, oh.